My topic for today's debate is multinational corporations should practice moral relativism. I'll be presenting my debate in favor of the same. Let us briefly look into what is moral relativism. Why do we need morals? Why do institutions or corporations need to adhere to morals? According to philosophical basis or philosophy basics, moral relativism, also known as ethical relativism, is the position that moral or ethical propositions do not reflect objective or universal moral truths, but instead make claims relative to social, cultural, historical, personal circumstances. In brief, moral relativism tries to define what is good and what is bad, both for an individual and a corporation. Moral relativism is very tightly coupled with cultural relativism. Sorry. The reason it is so tightly coupled with cultural relativism is because of the context of these morals and the geographical locations these morals are accepted or practiced by various institutions or corporations or individuals. In more simplistic terms, morality is simply what one believes is right or wrong, and moral relativism is where a person attempts to consider a specific circumstance or a set of circumstances to determine the right or wrong course of actions. In the context of multinational corporations and business, moral relativism may sometimes seem natural in certain circumstances, which are necessary for businesses to thrive. Let's consider an example of the manager of a multinational corporation, as explained by Manuel. Many oil companies, we all know oil companies are widely spread due to the globalization. They are spread across multiple geographical locations. Let's see what the manager from oil companies from United States comment on moral relativism. Many oil companies operate in the United States, which professes that men and women should be treated as equals and where bribery is considered wrong. This is pretty much a common phenomenon across the West, where bribery is a punishable offense both from a corporation's policy standpoint and also from community or local government standpoint. But on the other hand, these oil companies, also operate in several Middle Eastern countries where women are regarded as subordinate to men, and bribery is kind of widely accepted. Now, how a manager who is handling multicultural teams should handle such differences. There is no one size fits all kind of approach he can take where he operates in a specific geographical location. Instead, the teams or the company or the policies vary based on how they are spread across these regions. In these kinds of scenarios, applying moral relativism seems to be the natural way out, wherein the ethical quality of particular acts are moral norms of the society within which the act itself takes place. Therefore, in this case, although universal moral standards can exist, yet the actions of women's subjugation and bribery has been influenced by the norms of local culture. One more example, which is very relevant and mentioned by the same manager in the context of moral relativism, is American banks or banking industry in general. Banking industry is one more industry where they operate in geographical locations with different cultural norms across the globe. Let's see what an American bank manager quotes in his experience or in his comments about moral relativism when he was operating as a bank manager in Italy. Uh, at the end of every year, when it was time to file the tax returns of the subsidiary for an American bank when he is in Italy, the American manager was told by the bank's local lawyers and tax consultants that he should understate the bank's actual profits, explaining that every Italian company did the same. They actually tried to influence him, saying that Italian government expected companies to do this and that they would later counter with higher taxes meant if it is not done so. Now, considering this situation, the company and the government would then meet to negotiate a formal tax rules. But coming back to the American manager example, coming from his Western roots and his experience, the American manager downright rejects the advice of his local Italian lawyers and accountants or consultants, tax consultants, saying that knowingly understating the bank's true profits would be deceptive and a violation of a company policy. So he goes ahead and files a tax return based on the actual numbers, based on his American standards he follows all the time, only later to be faced with a tax assessment by the government that was three times of what the bank had stated on his tax return. Eventually, the bank was forced to pay three times the tax. So this is actually one of the classic examples where bribery is clearly wrong as per universal moral principles, but it is a common practice and accepted in the local Italian culture. It qualifies as a form of commission or a compensation to the government which is necessary to do the business. Many other examples are widespread, especially in last 50 years, considering the women's subjugation, gay rights, and especially how tightly coupled the religious principles are widespread in the communities where multinational companies operate. Let me give an more example. Alan Turing is actually considered to be a greatest mathematician of 20th century. But after World War II, he was actually has to go through a lot of challenges considering his sexual orientation. Society, corporations, country was not ready to accept something as a different sexual orientation, and that was predominantly considered as a sickness or a disease to be cured, and the policies were written in that regard. However, later on we have seen that's not true, and the more and more we learn about the moral relativism, they go much deeper into the actual human morals, and it gives both corporations, individuals, and communities a better place to operate in and also more freedom to operate in. Thank you.